First thing I have learned to do over the years is to have a to-do list. So I write down the things that I need to do. And then I remind myself that everything is important, right? But everything is not necessary to be done, particularly on that day. If one activity or one task may trump another depending on the situation that I face. So I make myself flexible. So yes, I have my list, but then I'm also flexible with that because I know, okay, I have 5 days in this week to work towards accomplishing a particular goal. If I can't get it done on Monday, I give myself wiggle room. So I have at least until Wednesday. So I would put the same thing down maybe for 3 days and I would keep moving it up and down. And I mean, with a marker and my whiteboard, so it's easy to erase and move things up and down. You understand? And once I have accomplished them, I would cross it out like a really big X. So I have that sense of, this is a small win, but it's a win nonetheless, right? Towards my goal, right? So that helps me a lot. So really, it's part of planning and organizing. Another thing is that I share my immediate goals with my family members so that they are able to help me or to support me. So when I leave the house and I'm going to do something and they ask, Mom, what you going to do or what you going to get done? And I remind them I'm doing this. It's like, oh yes, and don't forget you have this. And my daughter, one of my daughters, she would send me a text with, 2 or 3 items that I would have had to do. Right. Another thing that is helpful is to plan, not just write down the things that have to be done, but to plan it en route. So between Mayaro and Port of Spain, if I have 10 things to do, where do they fall in terms of that
Yes.
journey? So that I'm able to make stops that are relevant, you understand? And I accomplish more. So if I'm heading south, these are the 4 things I can do. If I'm heading east, these are the 3 things that I can do. So I go in order of priority and in order of the journey. So you're kind of accomplishing all of that at once. Another thing that I found that really works for me is I don't have time to read. So hey, so I have my audiobooks, and when my journey is long, while I have the things that I must accomplish, I would put in my audiobook and I would so I'm using up the time, and I'm relaxed on my way going. I don't, have conversations with people because really this is my time. And while I'm talking about my time, you see that me time concept is very important when you are trying to center yourself, right? Another thing that really works for me, because as I mentioned before, I love interior designing and creating and so on. I find that when I change my space, the space that I have around me, it helps to relax me. I also find myself um, talking to people who, not just to encourage and support me or to remind me like my daughter would do with her list, but talking to people who look at the bigger picture. And it helps me to relax because I know I don't have to overthink anything. So if I want to buy jewelry, I don't go to a butcher, I go to a jeweler. And when I talk to the jeweler, he's able to give me his opinion, and I'm happy because these are people I've built relationships with over a long period of time. So I'm able to jot that down, and then it will help me to move my priority list up and down, or so that I don't have to overthink and exhaust myself. That's their area of specialty. They will think it through for me. I recently made a financial decision, and I called my mentor and I said, listen, this is the situation. What do you think I should do? And he said, well, you pay this, you cancel that, you shift this. And I said, I didn't think of that. Thank you so much. And that's what I did. And I didn't have, to be overly stressed out. So you have to find these coping mechanisms that really would make everything more efficient, right? Another thing, in a very practical sense, is getting up earlier in the morning. When I get up to pray, I get up around 4 or 5 in the morning to spend some quality time with God, because it helps my spirit to be calm and it orders my day. Then after that, I'm able to go straight into the cooking and sorting. By 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, everything is done. Children already in online school, and my day has started, right? So it gives me an opportunity now to go to bed earlier. Now I have tackled the spiritual, and I have also tackled the physical, because my day has order and structure. So that is what helps me. And let me just point something out. When you go to the supermarket and you're tired and you don't have a list, you buy a lot of things that are unnecessary, and you find yourself going down aisles that you really should not, and your cart is higher than it should be. So, and I really, well, I should say I rarely shop when I'm tired and I don't have a list. Okay, if I know I'm tired, let me make a list for sure, because I need to stick to the plan. Lane 6, lane 4, lane 3. Those are the lanes that have what I want. I'm not looking anywhere else. Right. And so it's part of how I have disciplined myself, so that I'm able to better cope. And then your time in the supermarket is shorter. You see, you go in, you get what you need, and you get out, and you get back home, so that I don't have to waste too much time, being on the road and unnecessarily stressing myself out. So I think that I wanted to point that out, because when I'm hungry, my body shuts down. So I find that I always have to have, so I plan my meals so that on my trips, on my deliveries, or when I'm overseeing or I'm managing the business, I would make sure that I can take small breaks to eat, so that my sugar level stays high, and I'm well hydrated. So those little things, I've realized that you have to work that in to your daily plan, right? Order, Mike Murdoch is big on order, and everything must really center around order, strategy, plan. You have to know yourself, what times of the day are best for you. Because I'm getting older, I realize that I nap quite well. My power naps are between 2 and 4 o'clock. I am, those are necessary times for me. So I try not to be on the road those times, because I'm more irritated, and I need to rest. So if I could just close my eyes for 5-10 minutes, I'm good again to go. So you learn about yourself. When is the time that you're most productive? When is the time that your body needs the most amount of rest? If you plan your meals, you write down exactly what you need to buy. And when you find that your finances are lining up, because that's a part that you could become financially exhausted, just trying to juggle and balance and juggle and balance. And when you have put order in that, by reducing expenditure, and so on, by curbing, reducing, you find that you are more at peace. So you look for the things that are stressors in your life, and you eliminate them. And that is what helps in terms of dealing with exhaustion, with dealing with the concept of tiredness, right? Now remember, it's not just we are made up of our physical, our spiritual, our social. So each area becomes exhausted, and you have to know how to tackle each area, so that the dynamics would allow for that integration. Is that synergy, right? Socially, you have to know what friends to keep and how long to have them, because sometimes people blow up my phone all the time. The phone is ringing, and I have to look at the person and decide, okay, I'll call you right back, or I can talk with you now, or not today. Because some people, when you're done talking with them, you don't feel like you're in a better place. You feel depressed, or you feel discouraged. So you need to know when to handle them. You do have to address them, but it's when. You understand? Same thing with clients. If you have business, you have to know when to respond to them. You have to know, and what to say to them, because while you don't want to be offensive, at the same time you have to be firm, right? And I remember very last year, there was a couple that stayed at our inn, and they loved the place, and then they said, okay, they would call back for another time. And when they called back, I said, well, listen, the procedure is that you must make reservation, because bookings would come, and people will just show up sometimes, and we may not have the space. And the wife was so insistent that they needed to come, and I said, listen, if I have a space, I would allow you to come in. She came, and of course, it was only one night that was free. And then she's like, well, we're thinking we could stay 2 or 3 other nights. I said, no, but that's not how it works, you see. And she was very upset, and I'm thinking, I really did want to blow up, and I kind of just had to pull myself back and say, listen, and I explain, and in point form and so on, and it ended where she said, okay, thank you. She was at peace, I was at peace. I was able to grade some services, and allow her to feel, that she was important. And I mean, all of my customers, of course, are. But in that particular situation where we had gone through everything, and I felt like I had explained, I didn't think, and so I was just, that was tiring, but how it was handled, it has to be handled professionally, right? Things must be done decently and in order. You must also always be able, if you are not able to respect the other person, then this is not the best time to handle that, right? So I usually count to 10 and just take a deep breath, and then come back and deal with it, or deal with it the next day when I'm fully able to address the issue, right? Especially when you have to think of all the dynamics. And it's not always about you, it's also about the other person. You're tired, they're stressed out. I mean, we offer rest and relaxation. How would it look? I'm blowing up and you're blowing up. No, I want to offer you that space where you can find the rest and relaxation that you need, you see? So, yes, I don't want to take over the talking. So, but just sharing, so that people understand in a very practical way, right? Maybe it's a mouthful, because each thing, of course, can be dealt with, but it's just sharing from my heart. That basically how I deal with that whole issue of being tired. I love the idea that Mike talks about perception. You see, if the mountain might seem bigger, the valley might seem deeper, the challenge seems insurmountable, and it's true. So centering yourself, and deciding which area needs to be addressed is very important. And that's another thing. Let me pull that out clearly. You can't address everything, because you'll wear yourself out. But if you do have to make a decision, decide which one you're going to make. You understand? At any given point in time, so that you don't overwhelm yourself, right? So I have to wash, I have to make up the bed, and I have to cook. Okay, so those are important on a daily basis. But if a guest is coming, then the cooking will trump the washing, you see? Because I could always hide the clothes in the hamper or throw it back in the washing machine. But the guest is coming, obviously, you want to offer them something to eat, you understand? Or if somebody's coming over to sleep, then it will be the making up of the bed and then the cooking, you understand? So those kinds of things, so you don't overwhelm yourself.